Joined by Bret Baier, host of Special Report. You can watch Bret every night at 6 p.m. on the Fox News Channel. Happy Thanksgiving in advance to you, Bret. I hope you get a couple of days off this week.
I will. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I want to begin with a Fox News story that just broke. I posted it over on my X account. DNC union launches GoFundMe for staffers hit by massive layoffs after election losses. I'm kind of surprised by this, Bret. Presidential campaigns end. They always end. What do you think is going on there?
I don't know. It's really amazing, the unwinding of this of the campaign and exactly how much money was spent in a very short amount of time. And this seems like they are caught off guard that the campaign was coming to an end. It seems pretty mismanaged at the top there, and I think you've heard some finance people on the Democratic side express a lot of angst and anger about that.
As a Republican, I do not hope that Rahm Emanuel runs the DNC because he'd be very good at it. But it does seem to me if they're serious, they would bring in Rahm. What is your understanding of who's in the hunt for that and who is the leader?
I think Rahm probably is in the pole position. I think O'Malley from Maryland is going to make a run. I think a few others. It's going to have to, Hugh, be a change of process, a change of thought about, this is almost coming out of the wilderness now after a loss like this. And, they'll look at the popular vote and say it wasn't, it's a divided nation, but you look at those swing states that all tip, it shows that the Trump campaign was good at touching, especially American workers.
Yeah. Now, I began the program with Senator Collins this morning, who got up early to talk to me because she's going to be the chair of appropriations. And we talked about the reconciliation process and how the budget has to get done in order to do the reconciliation. Do you think Donald Trump will put pedal to the metal here? Because if you want the economy to boom, you'd better extend those tax cuts in a hurry in time for them to be working for the 2026 midterm, or the Republicans will get wiped out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's going to happen right off the start of January 20th, and I think there will be a push on the tax cuts. I think you've seen Scott Bessent articulate some of that. I think there's going to be a major push on energy, and you'll see that, and I think that sector will really boom right away. And I think there's going to be a major push on immigration and keeping the borders secure. I'm not sure what the deportation will look like. I think that's going to take some time. But I do think that the pressure on Mexico and Canada that we saw last night is going to be part of the equation.
Oh, yeah. Now, Bret, I talked to Byron earlier, and I proposed the same thing. I just want your reaction. When the president goes into reconciliation, he's going to demand the money and the authorization to build the border wall in the first year and get it done. And that's a given. But he could also ask for, and I think would get, regularization for the Dreamers, a little Nixon to China there. Do you think he will, and should he?
I think he may, and it would probably go a long way to reaching across the aisle for something. I think people are going to be surprised at how much President-elect Trump does some of that. And I think that he's, I think he's going to make some inroads to try to do bigger things. His mandate is to get the stuff he talked about on the campaign trail done. But I think his real mandate is legacy and trying to get big things done quickly because, as you know, you have about 2 years.
And you get two big swings with a majority in the Senate, the budget reconciliation trailer bills. And I hope they are ambitious in year number one. Let me talk to you about appointees. I'm very happy with Pam Bondi. I think John Sauer is a great SG. Todd Blanche will be a good deputy. That's the criminal stuff. But in terms of the Department of Justice and the FBI, Bret, they are diseased at the top. And by diseased, I mean they become partisan. How many people do you think will be shown the exits at both agencies? One agency, but they're two titles.
Right. I think it'll be significant. If not shown the door, then probably leaving themselves. If I had to
self-deportation.
Yeah. I think that might be a real thing. for DOJ in some corners. Listen, he's going to have this effort to kind of figure out what happened, and that can get messy. I don't know who's going to be the head of the FBI. I'm not sure that Kash Patel is going to get to the top rung there, but I know that Pam Bondi is probably going to run a tight ship.
One of my old colleagues from the White House counsel's office sent me a note that dispensing with the full field background investigation is not a good idea. I kind of disagree with him, but I am open to being persuaded. What do you think about that, Bret? Because you do miss stuff, and especially the Ethics and Government Act can trip people up if they have done well in their lives with what they have to divest. You're not allowed to hold certain stocks, et cetera. What do you think about the truncated process Trump is putting together?
Yeah, I think that there's a danger there. It's a double-edged sword. It may speed things up, but then you may get tripped up by somebody that doesn't tell you something. That becomes a problem. We've seen that time and again in nominees who have something that the FBI check would have gotten, and that's the only problem. Maybe not the only problem, but it is a problem, and it could slow down the whole effort as far as momentum.
No, I think Pete Hegseth is going to get confirmed. He's your colleague, so I'm not going to ask you about that. Is there anybody else in the cabinet nominees that you think has a difficult path ahead? Because Matt Gaetz is gone, Pam Bondi will fly through. I don't think I see anyone with trouble other than Pete, but I think Pete will get through. Your assessment of everyone but Pete.
Well, I'm happy to talk about Pete. I think Pete's a great guy. I think that I think the issues of the nomination are public, and I think that it's a simple head count. And right now, I'm not sure it's there. So that's not to say it's not going to happen, but I think that he's got some headwinds as far as making inroads on Capitol Hill. On others, I think Tulsi Gabbard's probably the biggest. I don't see Kennedy having a major problem, but I think Tulsi Gabbard is maybe there'll be some things that come up that cause some issues. Remember, you don't have to lose that many people up there on the whip count.
Yeah,
and,
4 votes.
It becomes an issue. Yeah.
Now, DNI, though, has always struck me, ever since I watched Dan Coates at Aspen, they don't really have a job. They have input, but they don't really have statutory authority. That's why John Ratcliffe, who had been the DNI, said, give me the agency, and got the agency. The DNI really does not have much access or authority. They have input but not authority. I can't see that being a problem. Is there anybody else? And I agree with you on RFK. He was part of the campaign. He might have provided the margin. He's going to get confirmed because people know that he's a little bit, well, he's actually quite eccentric in his life and views. But this is a old-fashioned political IOU, you get this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And also I think there may be some Democrats who, don't want to vote against a Kennedy. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he's got the name, he campaigned. There were a lot of women who listened to his, thoughts about what's going in your cereal for your kids. That there's concern. There's a lot of it. So you weigh the things that he said that on the out of the mainstream, and you weigh the things that really may have tipped the balance in some of those suburban women voters.
Is there any name that has surprised you, Bret?
Well, Matt Gaetz surprised me.
Well, that's a current name. Current name.
Yeah. I don't think. Listen, I think overall, if you look at how people have perceived this, Hugh did a study, a survey. I think it was 53, 47, something like that, about positivity for the transition. And I think there's going to be some leeway here. And so I think if you were to judge it, the Matt Gaetz thing was a mistake, but Pam Bondi actually is better in the wake of having Matt Gaetz go first.
Yes. Yes.
And so I think that there may be bumpy roads for some of them, but for the most part, I think people are going to get through.
Yeah, the gates, I was reminded of Major League, just a bit outside, Bob Euchre. But we're now back in the strike zone, and Bret Baier, I'll be watching tonight, 6 p.m., as I do every night.